Hi, this is Growing My B2B Brand, where we discuss ways companies can grow to the next level and achieve their goals. We'll look at improvements that are immediately actionable. Let's get started. Today, we're here with Holly Zoba, and she's going to speak with us about how technology is helping the COVID hit hotel industry. So, Holly, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm happy to be here.
So I'm really excited to talk about this because so much has happened since COVID hit, right? Um, it all, we all kind of closed down in March, and now we're, almost at December. It's been almost a year. So I'm sure that you've really experienced a lot as somebody that, works so much with the hotel industry. I'm really curious. How do what do you see as the future of the hospitality industry in a post-COVID world?
I wish I knew. I know you don't want to hear that. I
It's
don't really
okay.
have a crystal ball. And I'll tell you, it's really been such an evolution. I've been thinking about this topic since the podcast concept here came up. And it's been such an evolution. In March, I looked back through emails to see exactly how people had evolved. And in March, we all thought, okay, this is going to last for a few weeks. Let's really hunker down and see what's going on. And then we got excited because we thought once the lockdown was lifted, business was going to come back. And so hotels started rehiring and reopening. And
Mhm.
then the second wave hit, and that was really depressing. So
Yeah.
there have been so many changes. When I look kind of at a 30,000 foot level, I guess I see a couple of indicators that tell us what's going to happen. If you're at all familiar with hotels, you know from a technology standpoint, we're a little bit behind the rest of the world, in part because we have a lot of legacy technology that doesn't communicate with each other. And I just had a weird thing happen to me last week, and I will share this with you. A very large technology provider of data to hotels was showing me some reporting last week, and I was sort of getting a back end view. And I said to him, "Is that the DOS operating system you're using?" And he said, why, yes, it is. I kid you not. I'm not going to share the company, but it's a
DOS still exists.
DOS. It can't possibly be supported. But that's been always the crux of our problem. We have these large infrastructure, we have reservation systems that they developed in the 80s for
Yeah.
large brands that they've done, patchwork to,
Mhm.
but they've never really evolved. And so as a result, when you try and lay on anything with artificial intelligence, it's like, what? We're not talking. So all of that being said, there has been some movement in the hospitality world in this COVID area, and it's really been, I guess, I sort of see three paths. Path number one: companies have pulled back, really invested in upping their technology game, and made huge advances, which I'm thrilled about. Sadly, that's the smallest lane. The second lane has been people who got away with not embracing technology had to get over it a little bit and begin to learn it. That's my space. I work with a lot of hotel sales and marketing people, and the marketing people have been pretty quick to embrace technology. Hotel salespeople, not so much. I actually have been trying to teach hotel salespeople technology prior to COVID. And I will say the one benefit that COVID has brought is they are definitely, it has stepped up their adoption rate. Hallelujah. So that's good news. So that's the second lane. They're sort of, okay, we're going to have to do it. Let's make some movement and get it done. And then you have really sort of the third lane that is just embracing the olden days, if you will. Uh, they're just, sorry, I thought of a fourth lane. This third lane is really embracing the olden days in that they're saying, gosh, what COVID has taught us is we should not be relying on technology. We've got to be relying on these personal relationships. We've got to pick up the phone and talk to these people. So that's a little bit curious. And then I have this fourth lane that's going to be really interesting. I don't know how it's going to play out. We have lost over the course of the last 8 or 9 months a lot of institutional knowledge in the hotel business.
Yeah.
We have a lot of senior vice presidents and chief operating officers who have been in this industry for 30 years
Yeah.
who are out of jobs,
Yeah.
who are now consulting. And a number of them have left the industry. Obviously, they have found opportunities elsewhere. So we've lost a lot of senior leadership with a lot of institutional knowledge. So what's going to happen? They're going to bring in people from the outside to fill those roles. And first of all, those people are going to be shocked when they run into the DOS operating system. But second of all, I feel certain hotels aren't the only industry that are lagging a bit in the technology world. So they may be bringing some fantastic expertise that will skyrocket us. So we have these 4 lanes, and so for me to kind of say my crystal ball says X, I don't know which is going to be the strongest. I do I do see overall people are embracing technology a little faster than they used to, thank goodness. And so I do see some real lights on the horizon. And as I said, there are a handful of companies who are really making some big advances. So I'm hopeful that, others will follow suit. Long answer, I know, to your
That's
first
okay.
question.
No, I was really interested as you were talking about that. There are a lot of new boutique brands or like offshoots from other companies that are trying to position hotels and, hospitality industry in a very different way. Do you find that they are more adept at technology, or would that be a false assumption?
No, no. In some cases, absolutely. Some of these brands are Marriott's in disguise. You think they're a boutique brand, but they're really a soft brand for Marriott.
Right.
And Marriott has made some pretty good advances in the world of technology. So that's exciting. They are getting more automated from everything that they can automate. They are automating from a guest experience
Mhm.
standpoint, which if you're a customer service training company that we are both familiar with, you're not excited because it's taking that human touch away. However, if you're a traveler, you're overjoyed. And COVID really has forced a lot of that stuff. Everything's touch free check in, touch free checkout, ordering from your phone, ordering room service from an app on your phone. So, from that standpoint, it's been pretty exciting. And these independent boutique hotels are really embracing that. They're exploring, they're trying some things because they're smaller. They can be a little bit more nimble when they're
Mhm.
experimenting. So, I think that's actually been pretty exciting. However, you also then have these small boutique independent hotels that are simply that. They're very small businesses. And so some of those are, a little bit challenged when it comes to embracing anything new.
Well, I would think a lot of them, may have struggled with, within this environment to stay afloat, to keep alive because, that's I was actually scheduled to go on a cruise in May, and of course that didn't happen. So I had tickets through British Airways. I had, the cruise, I had the hotel, I had all the theater tickets, all that kind of stuff, and it all just melted away. And so, I know from watching the cruise industry, for instance, that it's been, I don't know, somewhat concerning, especially if you're a cruise, enthusiast. But yeah, so I've looked at it from a lot of different angles, just from the interest perspective of somebody who wants to maybe get their money out of their British Airways credit. But
Yeah. Hold on to it for a bit. It's going to take a little longer.
yeah,
It's in the hospitality world. It's simply been devastating.
yeah,
I belong to a Facebook group called Hospitality Family, and it's heartbreaking every single day. And I'll give you an example. There are a lot of people like myself who went into the hotel business when we were kids.
Yeah.
I worked part-time in college for a hotel group. So I literally grew up in the hotel business. I have since moved on and I have my own company, but there are a lot of people who love hotels, and as do I. My company sells to hotels because I love hotels. There's something about hospitality that I think the people are nicer or something. But you have these people who have been working in this industry for 25 years at the property level or maybe a regional level, and they were furloughed in April, and then every day I read on this hospitality family, I got my final layoff notice today. They sent me an email. It's just every day it's devastating. And these folks don't know anything else. I mean, their skill set is checking people in and out or selling to groups. So it has been devastating, to say the least. I know I am working with a hotel right now that I think ran 11% occupancy last month.
Whoa.
11% in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Um, it's been a challenge. The good news is there are pockets of hotels that are doing well because, for example, I have a client in upstate New York, and it's way out in the middle of nowhere, which is exactly where everyone wants to be. She's having her best year that she's had, 3 or 4 years. That and the beach hotels are pretty
Yeah.
similar. That's pretty unusual, though. For the most part, I think as an industry, we're down 30%, 35% year over year.
Which, when you say 30%, that doesn't sound like a lot, because compared to like 100%, right? But I'm sure that 30% has to be devastating in terms of
Well,
loss.
it is devastating, and actually, it might be a little bit higher than 30. At a minimum, it's 35%. It might be a little bit higher. We have found pieces of business in various cities. It's just very different business.
Yeah.
So if you think about the people that used to travel that made up the bulk of our revenues,
Hmm.
business travel,
Yeah.
that's not there so much. Instead, we're getting a lot of people who are not risk adverse, shall we say.
Yeah.
And so they're willing to roll the dice and go and stay at a hotel because the prices are great.
Right.
And they are being hard on both the staff and the properties. So it's a different group. We have a lot of visiting nurses staying in our
Wow.
hotels. We have a lot of hotels who have turned over several floors to universities where they put their COVID students.
Wow.
Come down with COVID, you go into a hotel. So, as always, and like many industries, we've been really resourceful in where
Yeah.
we're finding business, but the whole thing's it's been an education. It's been fascinating. People who have their jobs, who have kept their jobs in hotels, their jobs are nothing like they were pre-COVID. If you're a sales manager at a hotel, you probably get 20 hours a week in sales. The
Wow.
rest of the time you're checking people in, you're cleaning rooms, you know,
I'm
it,
sure people couldn't have even imagined that before.
no, no, absolutely not. It's a different world.
So I'm curious. I mean, we've known each other a long time, and technology has really changed over the last, 10 years. How has technology impacted your own role, and what have been the most significant changes, you've had to make to be the best trainer and the best resource for the hospitality industry?
Well, it's been really funny because I have loved technology as almost as long as I've loved hotels. A couple of years ago, I went back to school and became a full stack web developer. So I'm a weird hotel salesperson with a web development twist to me. So I have really been trying to bring technology to hotel sales and marketers for a couple of years. And it's been a challenge. Uh, and as I said, since COVID and the whole need for everybody to really step up the pace when it comes to digital transformation, I've had a much more receptive audience to my product. So, in many ways, it's been great. I haven't had the audience, I haven't had the volume of the people to sell to, but certainly the ones that are buying are much more, okay, let's find out what this technology can do for this. I'm teaching them how to use apps. to make their life easier. And they think I'm a miracle worker. And I'm like, not so much. Like, the stuff's been around, but you've just been, a little bit ignoring it. So from that standpoint, it's been a lot of fun. However, this is kind of funny. I just finished a 6-week class with a group of global sellers,
Mhm.
and I just am getting their survey results today from the class. And overwhelming, I have to say, this group very much embraced the new technology that I was sharing with them. They were scared, they were frightened. These are people in their 40s and beyond who have been selling a certain way for many years. They're pretty high level in the sales world, and I'm throwing them some crazy stuff. And they really have done a great job at embracing it. So for the most part, I'm getting rave reviews. And then I got one that said, I didn't like it. I like talking to people. I don't like technology. So, out of 40, there was one. It sort of gives
Yeah.
you an idea. But for the most part, I'm overjoyed that these folks are suddenly, the light bulb's going on, like, oh my gosh, this can really expedite the sales process. For example, I'm training them on video emails,
Mhm.
video sales emails. And we've not done that in the hotel business. And
Yeah.
they learn it and they think it's cool. So that's always fun. But then they do it and they see their response rates go up and they think it's really cool. So that's been pretty rewarding. The they've seen the sales process accelerating.
Mhm.
They've seen people be more responsive. They've seen easier ways to tell their story. And so it's been delightful from my standpoint.
And that's something, video content in sales emails is something we're actually going to be covering in the next few weeks on Growing My B2B Brand. So that's a nice segue there. We're going to be talking with the founder of Vidyard, which I think you're familiar
Oh,
with. Yeah. Um,
absolutely.
so how is data, I mean, we just talked about DOS, but how is data empowering your sales and training efforts, as well as your customer selling efforts? I mean, is there a data component to this?
That's been very interesting. The ROI on salespeople has been non existent. It's been really hard to track the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of questioning going on. What's the worth of a salesperson? Today, if you are finding new business, it's directly related to your salesperson. So salespeople have an ROI. That's been new and that's exciting. And to some extent, that's data. On the flip side, the other thing that's happened is marketing in the hotel world. It's a weird thing. Sales and marketing have always fallen under the same person. It's not the same in other industries. I never knew that. I just always thought it worked that way. But in hotels, it's how it is. However, mostly you were a salesperson or you were a marketer.
Right.
And then e-commerce came along and the two sort of split off a bit and didn't speak. I mean, they went into their silos and, obviously that presented some problems. Today, one or the other has lost their job. And
Right.
so one person is now sort of back overseeing both in some cases, not across the board. And in many ways, this has been a fantastic thing
Yeah.
because they're seeing, oh my gosh, there's all this data out there that I can use to see what's working, what's not working, what my customers like, where they're clicking on our website. I mean, it's just been this eye-opening experience. Again, some people are rolling their eyes thinking, this technology's been around for a while. We haven't been embracing it. There have been some folks in the hotel world who have been embracing it, but they haven't really been sharing that knowledge with everybody. And now it's becoming more apparent. I teach a digital marketing class, and historically, it's been e-commerce people who've attended the class, and in this, or revenue management people, because they're a little bit more analytical, and so they would take the class. In this class and in the previous month, we've had more salespeople in this digital marketing class, and I'm overjoyed because again, it's just showing that people are responding. They want to learn. They see the upside. So it's been pretty exciting. The other thing, obviously, from a training standpoint that I've had to adjust to, which has sort of been fun also, is I used to go in person and do training. Um, and I haven't done that since March.
Mm.
Oddly enough, in January, I launched sort of a hybrid approach to training where they would do some of their learning online via an e-learning platform. And then I would get everybody together on a Zoom workshop once a week. And people really loved that. And so I started that in January. In March, I just sort of moved everything over to that. So it's worked out pretty well for me. The other weird thing that's happened in my world is, as I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of hotel people out of work and they're really good at what they do. There's a guy who did meta search for Wyndham Hotels and he ran their meta search and he's out of work. And so he has just put together a training class. He doesn't know anything about training, but he's really good at meta. I happen to know about training. And so he and I have partnered. He's the subject matter expert. I put the content together. And then on my own website, I've built my own LMS because of my technology bent. And so I'm housing his class there. And now I found another person who has a fantastic background. She ran a bunch of hotels in New York City. And for 10 years, these hotels every day were in the top 10 on TripAdvisor. They were ranked in the top 10 on TripAdvisor. These four hotels, it's the Library Hotel
Mhm.
Collection. Never did they fall off in 10 years, which
Wow.
it's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah,
And she is really an expert on customer service and how they manage to do that. Her hotels have been closed for 8 months.
yeah,
And so she too is putting a training class together. And she too will be coming soon to my website.
that's great.
So the key for all of us, I think, has been let's look for opportunities where we never thought, I never thought this is what I would be doing, but it's been fantastic. I've really enjoyed it. And it's, helping to pay the bills, which is also lovely.
Yeah, so I'm really curious, what are some of the lessons that you can tell B2B sales and marketing teams? Because there are so many people that, could definitely benefit from your advice.
Um, it's really interesting. I have watched a lot of people go through launching their own business in the last 8 months. And one of the things I can say is so much of it is mental. You're going to get sad, you're going to get defeated, and don't give up. You have to figure out a way to motivate yourself. I took to, do you remember that old video of Jessica and the affirmations? When she's
Yeah,
talking to herself in the mirror, I literally have had to send that out to a number of people because they're good people, they're smart people, they're focused. There's just not a lot of people buying right now. And so they get so discouraged, but you can't give up. And so that would be, number one, you've got to figure out a way to keep yourself motivated. And number two, you've got to stay focused on what you believe is going to make you successful. And don't get distracted, which is a big challenge. It's a tall order, but stay really focused on that and spend your time doing that. Embrace technology. There's so much stuff out there that can make your life more efficient. I tell everybody that I train and that I work with in this other area, automate everything that you can. There's too much cheap technology out there that allows you to get 5 times the work done that you would have 3 years ago.
yeah,
So figure out how to automate it so you don't have to do everything yourself. And look for opportunities always. Uh, I would not have mapped out. I'm a big planner. I don't know if you remember this about me, but every year I do an 8-page Excel spreadsheet for my New Year's resolutions. And I would not have mapped out any of this year. I mean, none of that was on my spreadsheet. But particularly, this concept of helping these people build these training classes, um, you know, look for opportunities. Don't assume something is depressing or distressing. Look for the upside to it.
Yeah.
And if there's not an upside to it, move on and look for the next one.
Yeah. No,
I don't
that's
know if,
definitely something I've learned. I mean, we've both gone through a lot of changes this year, but trying to really find that in the joy in this, and that's a kind of a weird thing to say, but looking at like, okay, I've gotten to do, these new things because I'm home, like just like this podcast. This is a new thing. And
yep,
it's fun and interesting and exciting, and it's something that I can apply my skills towards, but it's something I wouldn't have thought that I'd do before,
yes, absolutely.
So I definitely think, I mean, one of the things I will say before we wrap up is that you really talked to me a lot recently about new tools and making them work for you. And what are some of the tools that you think people don't realize are out there that they really need to know about?
Sure. So, in my experience, really getting as close to the customer as possible always ends up being profitable. It always helps you make better decisions. So, I'm always on the lookout for research, data research tools around what our customers are doing. Rand Fishkin has launched a new company called Spark Toro. Rand was the previous founder of Moz. And Spark Toro is, I don't know, 7 or 8 months old, and it's amazing. Especially so in my world, in my little hotel world, as I said, the people that used to be traveling aren't traveling anymore. And so hotels have had to go out and find new segments of business that they didn't know anything about. For example, manufacturing is a big segment that's traveling right now,
Yeah.
and a lot of hotels had corporate legal those meetings at their properties, and now they need to get to know manufacturing. Spark Toro allows you to do that. You go into Spark Toro, type in the search box, tell me about people who are talking about manufacturing, and it returns to you, here are the podcasts they're listening to, here are the websites they're visiting, here are the social accounts they're following. It's this amazing wealth of information. So first and foremost, I'm a big fan of that. Um, the second tool that my folks love and talk about using technology to make your life easier, Crystal knows. I download the Chrome extension. So I go into LinkedIn, and if I'm going to need to have a meeting with somebody or jump on a call with them, I pull them up first in Crystal knows, and they do a personality profile on the person I'm about to talk to. I mean, in depth. They tell me how to open the conversation. They tell me what language to use. Should I be low key? Should I be analytical? Should I be big picture? It gives you such an edge. It tells you what to say in an email to them. This particular tool, Crystal knows, cracks me up because if you're not in sales, you see it and you think it is horrible and you can't believe it exists and you want it shut down immediately. However, if you're a commissioned salesperson, you just are, you thank the heavens that it came to be. It's phenomenal. And then the last tool that my clients have benefit, well, I shouldn't say that, there's two tools. Lumen 5 is a video production tool, and it allows you to take a blog post that maybe people responded to very well. You plug in the blog post to Lumen 5, and it uses AI to produce a video for you. It marries your text, it figures out the most important parts. It has a whole database of video snippets. So it marries those video snippets, includes music based on the tone of your blog. It's really pretty amazing. And it presents you with a video that you can then go in and personalize and edit, of course,
Wow.
but it's incredible. And so that's a big tool. My other favorite tool is Sniply. Um, Sharing content on LinkedIn is important. And when I teach it, like you're nodding your head, yes, I know it's important. When I talk to some of my hotel people, they're like, nobody's looking at my stuff. Sniply allows you to share some content, but you do it with a Sniply link similar to a Bitly. I
Okay.
connect that with Sniply in many cases, when you go to read that article, a little pop up comes up that is your picture or your brand picture with a personal note saying, if you like this, click here. And you can take the person on their journey to the next place you want them to go. And it tracks it all. So, you're sharing content. I'm a sales trainer. I'm sharing content about something having to do with prospecting. People read the article. If they've done that, my little pop-up comes up and says, want to learn more about prospecting? Click here. And I click there. And so it takes them obviously to my webpage. What this Sniply does is allows salespeople to see what's resonating with their people. And humorously enough, what I learned is salespeople could care less about AI. Any content that I shared that had artificial intelligence in it, nobody clicked on from my sales world.
Yeah.
Marketers, different story.
Mhm.
And so, it's one of my all-time favorite tools, and it's been around a little while.
That's really cool. I'm going to have to check that out. I mean, we talked about Crystal Nose and Spark Toro the last time we chatted, and I had encountered Crystal Nose a few years ago and thought it was scary and that it, scared that it was, scraping the universe. And now it's just an accepted thing that all of our information is out there. And so, yeah, I downloaded that and looked at the Chrome extension, and it was wild. I mean, you could even select if you wanted to get a job offer, or like, like working with somebody on a job offer, what kind of language you should use. I mean, it was wild. I will say one of the other ones that I've started using is Yes Ask. And it's like it's a video pop-up that I'm using on the bottom of my website, but it's really cool because you can create like a journey that if a person answers something a certain way on the little pop-up, because they can select buttons, then it takes them on a different journey. So you actually can create like this almost like marketing automation kind of workflow. So that's one of the cool new things that I'm trying, is along with the Vidyard videos and things like that I know we're doing. But
I'm
I,
going to have to investigate that.
yeah, it's that's also one of the things that I've encountered since I've been embarking on my own journey, is the new technology that's out there. I mean, I haven't needed to know some of this stuff for a long time, but it's like once you start digging, it's like I'm so glad I know this stuff now.
It's true. And especially as an entrepreneur, you have to wear a lot of hats, and you can't get it all done. But there's technology that exists. Just search for it.
Yeah.
That'll help you get it done faster. The trickier part is separating the good from the bad. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff that just really wastes your time. I can give you a list of those as well.
We'll take
I've,
that too.
I've, I've downloaded those and spent many hours. But there's also just amazing technology that can automate everything for you.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time today to speak with us and share your knowledge. So, if you can tell us again the name of your company, and if your web address, if you want to share that with us.
Absolutely. So my company is Scout Simply, and it's the search for revenue made clear, named after my dog Scout, because she's good at sniffing out opportunities. A little bit different what she's looking for versus what I'm looking for. But my website is the same, scoutsimply.com. And when you go to the website, you can find out a little bit more about the training classes that I'm offering. And you'll also start to see these other training classes that I've been talking about. Everything you ever wanted to learn about meta search.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you so much, Holly.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And so thank you for joining us for Growing My B2B Brand. I know you will enjoy our next episode, where we continue to explore ways that your company can immediately improve. Thank you.